Let's look at how to write an orientation. The orientation is the introduction or the opening of a story. So it's very important to engage the reader with your orientation. What you need to do is to describe the setting. So think about, where does the story take place? When does the story take place? And try and use descriptive details to bring the setting to life. So use things like colours, sights, sounds and smells. Apart from describing the setting, you also need to introduce and describe your character or characters. Think about, what does the character look like? How does the character behave? Try and use adjectives and adverbs to help describe your character and bring them to life. So adjectives are describing words like dark hair or a bad-tempered. And adverbs describe verbs. So he moved silently, okay, or he moved apprehensively. So it gives a little bit more information about the behaviour of the characters. So you've got setting, characters, and you also need to establish the point of view of the story. So the point of view is the perspective through which the story is told, and you can write from first person or third person point of view. Let's have a look at an example of an orientation now. This is taken from a short story called The Breadwinner by Leslie Hellwood. So you can see the orientation here on the screen. So let's point out a few features. First of all, it introduces the fact that the parents of the boy are 14. So they are the main characters in this story. So you've got the mother. Now in the description of the mother, we've got her actions. So she's cutting some slices of bread and butter for tea. We've also got a physical description of the mother. A little woman with a thin face and a spare body, dressed in a blue blouse and skirt. So suggesting that she's small and thin. You know, there's not a lot to her here. We've also got the fact that her skirt is covered with a starched white apron. So when you think about that, why do you think the writer uses that? Right? The starched white apron suggests that she's a hard worker, maybe she's a bit of a perfectionist, yeah, and she cares about her work. Then we've got that she looked tired and she frequently sighed heavily. So think about, okay, frequently sighed heavily. So you've got the verb and the adverb. Probably a sign that she's, again, hard-working, but she's also really exhausted, possibly even stressed. Now we've got the description of the father. So the father is sprawling inelegantly in an old armchair by the fireside, legs outstretched. He was also little. Now look at those verbs and adjectives. Sprawling inelegantly, legs outstretched. Those descriptions indicating that he's not a very sophisticated person. Yeah. He had watery blue eyes and a heavy brown moustache, which he sucked occasionally. So look, when you think about that image, that he sucked occasionally, his moustache, it's not a very positive image, fairly negative. It also gives us an idea of the setting. So we know that this is a domestic setting. It's in their home, right? Because the mother had laid the table and they were waiting for the boy to come home. It also tells us that the people were poor, and it describes the room as being meanly furnished, which means sparsely furnished. There's not a lot of furniture in that room, and that the thick pieces of bread and butter were the only food on the table. So This orientation works really well to set the setting, the characters, and the atmosphere. It also establishes the point of view. So as you can see, it's from the third person omniscient point of view. We can see all the characters in this story. So it's a pretty good orientation.